Hello and welcome to Run Testers. My name's Nick. In this video I'm going to be comparing the Nike Zoom Fly 6 and the Asics Superblast 2. So the Superblast and the Zoom Fly are not necessarily directly comparable shoes because the Zoom Fly has a plate in the midsole whereas the Superblast doesn't, but they are both super trainers that are designed to do a wide range of runs. They're both very popular shoes and people are quite keen to see this comparison, so here it is. The Zoom Fly is the cheaper shoe. It costs £155 or $170. The Superblast 2 is £200 or $200. The Zoom Fly is a little bit heavier. It's 266 grams or 9.4 ounces in a UK 9, whereas the Superblast is 252 grams or 8.9 ounces in the same size. They both have an 8mm drop, and the stack height on the Superblast is a little bit higher. It's 45mm at the heel, 37 at the forefoot, whereas the Nike Zoom Fly is 42mm at the heel and 34mm at the forefoot. Comes to the design, with the Nike you've got a 2-layer woven mesh upper with a fair amount of padding around the heel, significant internal heel counter as well to add some structure at the back of the shoe. You've got a dual density midsole. The top layer is made from Nike's ZoomX foam. There's a carbon plate running the full length of the shoe in between that. It's a fairly flexible plate, so a little bit more so than on their racing shoes, but still a stiffening agent to add to the midsole to add a bit more propulsion. And then you have Nike's SR02 carrier foam on the bottom of the shoe there, which is a little bit less lively than the ZoomX foam above it, but adds a bit more kind of durability and stability to the shoe. Got a waffle outsole, coverage at the forefoot and heel, big cutout in the middle that shows off the carbon plate in the midsole. And then with the Superblast, you also have a dual density midsole, but most of it is made from Asics' FF Turbo Plus foam, their best foam, the bounciest foam, the most responsive foam used in shoes like the Metaspeed Paris racing shoe series. And then you have some FF Blast Plus Eco foam on the bottom of the shoe there as well. Got a pretty simple engineered mesh upper, thin tongue, bit of padding at the back, bit of structure at the back, nothing too much going on with the upper there. And then you've got reasonable outsole coverage there on the bottom. You've got these patches of the AHA Plus rubber, which is pretty good in terms of grip. Lots of exposed foam, but the key areas are covered there and not any problems with grip with either shoe. Comes to the fit, I've got a UK 9 in both of these shoes, which is a US 10 for both of these brands. That's the size I use across the Nike and Asics range, and I've had no problems with the fit of either. Both have enough room around the toes, good hold around the heel and midfoot. They're both pretty comfortable uppers all round, I would say. For super trainers that can do very fast running as well as easy running, they do have very accommodating uppers that make them comfortable to pull on every single day. Nikes are probably a little bit more dialed in around the toes. It's a slightly more cramped fit, I'd say, than a Superblast, but not in a way that was unpleasant at all. It just gives it maybe a slightly racier feel at times, but overall I was very happy with the fit of both shoes. Yeah, great uppers, good comfort, and I would stick to your normal running shoe size. On to the run test then, and I think these are two excellent shoes, two of the shoes I've really enjoyed running in this year. The Superblast 2 more or less just picked up where the Superblast 1 left off in being pretty much the standard setter for plate-free super trainers. Like, it's a pretty unique shoe and one that I don't think any other brand's really been able to emulate in terms of that very versatile plate-free design, whereas the Nike Zoom Fly 6 was a big upgrade on previous models of the shoe, which were heavy, clunky, not that good, and the Zoom Fly 6 is now very good. It's a plated super trainer that can match up to the best in that category, including shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 4 or the Hoka Mach X2, and indeed it's a pretty good competitor for something like the Superblast as well, if you don't mind training with the plate. So Superblast 2 we had in for testing first, did a lot of running when we initially had it in, and I actually took it away last week for a trip and just used it for everything, just walking around, all my runs, on those trips where you only have a very small bag on a budget airline, so you have one pair of shoes for everything, and it's perfect for that because it is such a versatile shoe. It is comfortable, it's bouncy, it's fast, it does everything really well. It's also quite a nice looking shoe, I think, in this colourway, although some will disagree. It's also just amazingly light for its size, which really helps you pick up the pace in it. So I did like kind of a progression run in the shoe while I was away. I've done some full sessions in the shoe as well, and while it is quite a big shoe, something I always notice because of the way I am quite a high cadence runner, quite a shuffly runner, and a big kind of boat-like design like this sometimes feels a bit big on my foot, but if I kind of get over that, I can run fast in the shoe without any problems. Got a lot of response from the foam, and it does feel good for those fast paces, but really excels, I think, for kind of cruising around daily runs, like progression runs. We're moving to kind of steady paces, kind of quick but not fast, I guess is how I describe those kind of runs, where you are moving with a bit of effort but you're not really going for it, and long runs in particular. Just a really good shoe for eating up a lot of mileage, and just amazingly light for its size. Like, all these super trainers that have come out of plates are designed very explicitly for fast running. Things like the Nike and other shoes like that are all heavier than the Superblast, despite the fact it has a higher stack, just because that foam is so light, and that does really help it be a more versatile shoe. The Nike is also a very versatile shoe though, and that certainly wasn't the case with previous models of the Zoom Fly. Like, this is now a shoe you can go and do fast runs in. I've done a couple of hard sessions in it. I've gone down the track and done a 10 times 1 mile session, done a nasty progression run on the road, done a pretty decent steady run. Again, quick but not fast over about 90 minutes where I was running pretty well. And at the back end of marathon training, this was a shoe that I really enjoyed using for all the runs I was doing around that time. So pretty good workouts, lots of long runs, lots of progression runs, and it just felt really good for them. Like, it's an exceptionally comfortable shoe given the speed you have here, I would say. It starts with the upper, which is really nice to slip on, and then the underfoot feel is like really quite relaxed and cruisy for a shoe that you can run very fast in. And that's a bit similar to the Superblast, but I think you have a slightly smaller and more nimble design with the Nike, and although it's heavier, does feel a bit more kind of fast and direct than the Superblast because it has I think a slightly more aggressive forefoot rocker, like kind of, you get pushed off the toes a bit more on the Nike, I would say, and it just has a slightly smaller design around the heel, which as a heel striker with a high cadence, I do notice if I'm trying to run fast. So I'd say, like, when it comes to really all-out sessions or trying to hold a fast pace for a long time, if you're looking for a stand-in racing shoe, I think that's where the Nike excels a little bit more than the Superblast, just because it does have a bit more of a racy feel, a faster feel. I find it easier to sustain paces in the Nike than the Superblast. Superblast really, for me, fits more in the daily trainer mold where, it can do everything and it can go fast, but I think it excels more at kind of slightly more relaxed paces than the Nike. Both, I would also say, are surprisingly stable for such big shoes. Like, they've both got pretty wide bases, both got designs that are not necessarily going to be inherently stable with those big stacks of foam on there, but they're well designed. I had no concerns about running in them kind of on any terrain, and certainly no concerns in terms of pronation or anything like that. So I did do a short run wearing both shoes at the same time. You actually have a softer feel with the Nike, I think, and it almost feels a little bit more flexible. Like, the Superblast is quite renowned for being quite a stiff shoe, despite the fact it doesn't have a plate, which does help it run fast, but I know not everyone loves that for kind of more relaxed paces. Like, I quite like it for those relaxed paces, that stiffness kind of pushes you through and rolls you on. It's not uncomfortable at all, but it's surprising actually that even though the Nike has a plate, it didn't really feel that much different in terms of stiffness when you're comparing these two shoes directly on the run. And you get, I think, a little bit more pop and lift off the toes with the Nike with that plate in there, and the way the rocker, I think, just works a bit better for me, rolling me through my foot strike, whereas you've got the quite sharp tapered rocker on the Superblast. I think that helps a lot in terms of like a big amount of bounce, and if you're a bit more of a loping runner, I think you'll probably engage that and enjoy that a bit more than I do, but I do think you just get a bit more punch off the Nike. Superblast feels a bit more relaxed. It's kind of a strange shoe. Both of these shoes, actually, I would say, feel quite similar at a range of paces. Like, there are some shoes where you really feel that they're a bit more direct and firm and aggressive when you start running quick in them, but both of these feel like, you can run in these at very relaxed paces. Run them at fast paces, they still feel quite similar, which is nice. Like, it's great for a training shoe to be able to do lots of different runs in them like that, and they always feel quite comfortable and have stability, but you can run nice and quick in them as well. So verdict, I think this is a really tough choice. I think these are both excellent shoes that do a range of jobs really well. They're really versatile shoes. They're comfortable. I like wearing them both for easy runs, and then they do both have pace. You can go and do fast sessions in them, and you could even use both as stand-in racing shoes, especially for longer distances, because there is a lot of pace there, as well as protection and comfort with all the foam you have underfoot. So when it comes to picking between the two shoes, there are a few things you could look at to help you on that front. I mean, one is just simply the price. The Nike is cheaper, so that's an easy objective win for the Nike, and given that both these shoes are quite similar in performance, that is quite a big deal. You could certainly pick up the Nike, make a saving, and have a really good shoe. Then the ride feel, I think you've got a slightly more cruisy feel with the Superblast. It's a bit better for kind of loping through those easy runs, relaxed runs. It's a shoe I'm a bit more comfortable pulling on for every single day because it doesn't have a plate in there. It's got a nice relaxed upper. It feels really good at easy paces, and you can step up the pace when you want to. And the Nike's a bit nimbler, a bit more punch from the plate. If you are looking for more of an explicit fast trainer to add to your rotation, I think it does the job a little bit better, but it is also very versatile for sure. You've got a choice about whether to plate or not to plate. Like, I'm not sure it makes a huge difference in this case myself. Like, certainly there's a nice feeling in running a shoe without a plate and running fast and all that, but Superblast has got a big old super foam in there. It's a stiff shoe. I think it acts in a similar way in many ways as having the plate. That said, I do think it's a bit easier to maintain, fast paces over long distances in the Nike. So maybe that's a mental thing, or maybe that actually is the plate coming into play. So if you don't want to use a plated shoe, obviously the Superblast is an easy winner there. So that is something that, some people will want to consider. So obviously if you're looking for one shoe to do it all, I'd probably get the Nike myself if you're quite keen on racing, because I think it's a slightly better racing shoe and it does those easy runs well. If you're looking for a shoe to add to rotation just to have with like a carbon plate racing shoe to do those really fast workouts in, I think the Superblast works really well. I think that's that's probably the best two shoe rotation out there, I think, at the moment, is to get the Superblast for pretty much all your training, and then a carbon plate racing shoe for races and the odd really hard session. Superblast just does that role so well. And if you're looking for like a fast trainer to slip in the middle of a rotation, I think both work pretty much equally well. So it's more whether you want the kind of lighter but bigger design of the Superblast or the slightly punchier kind of plated nimble design of the Zoomfly. Like, again, it's really close here. So I think I'd really struggle to pick between them. I think I'd probably just lean towards the Nike myself. I think it just suits my running style a little bit better just because I have a high cadence. I said I really enjoyed just having the Superblast as my only shoe away on a trip. It was really nice to put it on every day. It's a shoe you can really fall in love with by using over and over again. So yeah, very hard to call. Probably the Nike just edged it for me, especially as it's a little bit cheaper, but certainly a very good case for either shoe. Both very much standouts of 2024. That's our comparison of the Zoom Fly 6 and the Asics Superblast 2. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.